everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today my topic is about the oceans. We are not aware of this because land is so big, but over 70% of the earth is covered in water, which we know as oceans. The land is where we live, and the oceans are not really explored, so humans have not really got a lot of information about the oceans. The oceans also have a range of salinity. Salinity is whether the ocean is salty or not that salty. For example, the Dead Sea is really salty because the rapid amount of evaporation causes salt to keep getting into the ocean, and also the sea has 6 times as much salt as an average ocean. There's also the Baltic Sea, which is surprisingly low amount of salinity because most of its water comes from mountains and fresh water, which has not a lot of salt, and evaporation is not as common in the Baltic Sea. The ocean is a wide range of sea and life. And underneath the surface, we are only aware of what lies between the light part because we cannot see the great depths of the ocean. The thermocline is the layer that separates the shallow and light part of the ocean against the deep part that stretches miles down to the ocean floor. Some of these ocean trenches are 1.25 miles longer or taller than Mount Everest. And Mount Everest is already really tall, so we know that the ocean is very deep. The thermocline has rapid water, so it causes the nutrients from the shallow part to not mix with the nutrients from the lower part. Nutrients in the lower part of the thermocline, it varies and is better than the nutrients on the surface of the water because the nutrients on the bottom gives a range to varieties of animals. So that's why there's more animals who live down at the bottom of the sea instead of above the thermocline, where the waters in tropical regions range up to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. There are also ocean currents. If you have not noticed, the ocean goes in currents, and for example, they make circles in this graph. The blue lines are the cold currents and the red lines are the warmer currents. It's very logical because the warmer currents are near the equator, while the cold currents surround the continents and are by the North Pole and South Pole. A very common current that we study is between the Gulf of Mexico and Western Europe. We see this as the warm waters from Gulf of Mexico do a circle around all the way to the Western Europe. And Western Europe is often cold, which is this blue part. But if the waters from the Gulf Stream of the Florida didn't come down to the British Isles in that Western Europe part, then that part would be really cold. It makes a circle because as the water, which is warm, travels to colder water, it becomes more dense or more salty because all the water is evaporated. So the water is forced to return into a circle back to the Gulf of Mexico where it is warm up again. There's also the wave powers of the ocean, and the moon also takes effect on the high waves and the low waves called tides. But how do waves form? Waves form different sizes and are often really close to the beach. It starts out as a little flotation or a little bumpy up, and then as it reaches the surface where the ground of the ocean gets more shallow, the wave doesn't have as much circulation because the water goes in a pattern of going up and down again. But as the ocean floor gets shallower, when the water goes down, it bumps along the ground and it doesn't have enough space. So that causes a wave to break. These large waves are chances for surfers to prove how good they are. Like this surfer is surfing through a large wave. Once the breaking wave washes ashore, it brings back a lot of minerals that have been trapped at sea. So that's why beaches are always surrounded with different types of rocks. And also there's the backwash, which the water sloshes away back into the ocean after the wave is formed. We have also not explored many of the depths of the ocean. The ocean can be as complex as exploring space because the ocean in its depths has an extreme amount of pressure compared to the pressure on the surface of our Earth or the land we stand on. In the bottom of the ocean, there's a 400 times of pressure difference. So that's why it is very hard to design a craft that could go down and explore the depths. But what we know so far is that there's many creatures that we haven't really studied, like giant squids and glow-in-the-dark fish. But there are many more. In a theory, we suggested that since Earth was once covered in all water and there was no life on the land, all the land life came from the bottom of the ocean and washed up onto the land. So that theory suggests that there are so many different types of species that are living on the ocean floor, but we just haven't discovered them. This is a graph of the chlorophyll or the green plants in the oceans. Where it is more tropical, there is more chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is the cell in the plants that make them green. In the more tropical parts, there are more chlorophylls. And this relates to the oceans because it provides more nutrients to the fish. So if the part that has more chlorophyll means that there's more varieties of life. The Dead Sea has, as I mentioned earlier, has a great amount of salinity, 6 times as the average ocean. These are just some tourists gathering and just resting on the sea. And you don't have to take a lot of effort to make you float because the salt naturally floats you up. So these people don't even have to lean back to float. In conclusion, I think the oceans are really vast and deep, and we still haven't explored many of these parts. So in the future, I hope that scientists invent more things to help us discover and explore the new parts of our oceans. Thank you for listening.